Lex. Look at this guy. This guy could use some new parts.
Yes.
Really?
7 parts. No, I mean, I'm fine. I last week I could have used a lot sitting there getting an IV, but I'm better now.
I was going to say, I wondered if you were going to be in a hospital bed, like in Traction or something. Have one of those halos on or something.
Yeah. Talking through some little hole in the cast of your face. Yeah.
I'm all good. Yeah, I'm back to normal. It was a long week, and God, you spend 3 days in Vegas and you don't drink or you don't do anything. You barely leave your room. It's heartbreaking. Like it's a waste of 3 days.
It's a two-way street. We're also disappointed in you.
Yeah, I mean, the last night I probably could have got up to some nonsense, but I had to fly out early the next day, so I'm like, all right, forget it. So it had already passed me. I was so disappointed. And the other thing too, I don't know what pisses you off more. Now we're all attached to these things, these phones, right? I had a suite. They had upgraded me to a suite, which was very nice. I had no cell service inside the suite. What the heck? Are we in the third world? There was zero cell service. And the Wi-Fi was junky. And
no way.
What bothers me now when you're dealing with IT is the person couldn't have been more useless. So I go, well, I don't have Wi-Fi in my room. Well, what room are you in? I'm in 2702. Is that a corner room? Yeah, that's a corner room. Well, the Wi-Fi doesn't work very good there. I go, well, no.
That's what I'm telling you.
Yeah, that's what I'm calling you for. What would you? Well, is there a chance you can switch rooms closer to the elevator? And I go, so the Wi-Fi is in the elevator. Well, no, it's not in the elevator, but it's closer to the center. And I go, okay, so I didn't know. We're talking. It was like a who's on first conversation.
Yeah.
And she goes, okay, what hotel are you staying at? I'm like, isn't this IT for the Cosmopolitan? Well, we are IT for the MGM, the Cosmopolitan. I go, so you can't come and look at my room. No, we're not physically allowed to come and look at the room. It was a gong show. So anyways, for 3 days, people were trying to get a hold of me and you couldn't call. I had to go out on my deck to make phone calls.
Or the elevator. Yeah.
Or the elevator. But it was just.
Sorry, guys. I'm on a call here. Room floor 8?
Yeah, it was a gong show. Put it that way. It's a gong show. And I was very disappointed. Usually the Cosmo, I had my bachelor party there, whatever it was, 12 years ago. I had lots of fun. But they've gone downhill since then.
Well, you're not going to get a suite if you keep
statement this guy's
talking.
Yeah, I was going to say thanks to the Cosmo for the upgrade, and we'll see you again next year.
I don't want no damn upgrade. Wi-Fi.
I would have stayed in a dumpster if I had good cell service and good Wi-Fi. I'm trying to watch hockey games, and you're trying to dial in, and you can't get it, and it's cutting out, and it was nonsense. I was very upset.
I think it sets you up with a dumpster and a monitor in one of the parking garages there. That'd be perfect.
Believe me, I've stayed in worse places in Vegas and some of my travels, or woken up in worse places, put it that way. So I'm not worried about the dumpster or any of that type of stuff, but I would like some cell service if that's possible.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's the way it's designed, that they, you've got like the Epstein suite or something where you can't, signal doesn't come in or out. It's
okay.
They put
Cut
you in
his mic, Jack.
They put you in the creep.
Yeah, the creep suite. I go in and there's it's the GIMP and all of that from
that's right. Yeah,
from Pulp Fiction. No,
I'm sure it's not that, Jamie.
I would be running the other way. Exactly. So what's going on?
We'll move on. You cover the Ottawa Senators, and likes to fight guy Jordan Binnington was back at it again last night. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think you know what? I think part of it's an act, because if you actually watched it, so he popped in there and just stuck his arm in on Brady, kind of going after a couple players. And then he goes to the bench. And as he's skating to the bench, he looks down at Allmark. Allmark had come out of his crease a little bit. He throws the arms up. Then he goes and sits at the bench and he's drinking water. And I swear to God, he's trying not to laugh. He's smiling. And I'm like, because he knows he's being a jackass, and he knows they're losing. I think at the time it was 8-0 or 7-0. So they scored one late, on one of the worst giveaways you will ever see in your lifetime.
From who?
Balduke. God, it was the left-handed shot. I'll look it up.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It was honest. If you get a chance, look at Adam Gaudette's second goal that he scored. he didn't even try. The guy literally tried to go a D to D or forward to D pass across the front of the crease, and Gaudette was standing there, and the guy just whiffed on it and went on to Gaudette's stick, so he put it in the net. It was one of the worst. Like, it was a Tuesday night at midnight, and give me a rink that you guys are skating at right now in Calgary.
Old Plains community.
Darcy Trail at some West Hills. It's midnight, and the guys had a bottle of wine with dinner with his wife, and he shows up and he's skating around and he makes a pass like that. It was nonsense.
It's the Norma Bush special right there. That's what it is.
Yeah. So anyways, watching that, I mean, I thought Binnington was kind of he got thrown in. Joel Hofer had a really terrible start. And then Binnington, I think, allowed like the last 3. But it was one of those nights where I think, and they were even talking about the schedule. It sounds like St. Louis spent 2 or 3 nights in Montreal, and that city might have got the best of them. And they just took the train over to Ottawa and just got woodshedded last night. So,
it'll happen.
Good. What? Good. That's right. Just chalk it up to some team bonding.
Yep. It's like
got to get that done early.
Short-term pain,
yes.
long-term.
Yeah, but I mean, think of it though. You would hope if you are going to play guilty, you play hard, and the attention to detail is more. I mean, we've seen that in our careers where guilt might have been front and center. And you make sure that the bearing down factor is times 10, because the coach knows, the GM knows, everybody except for the fan base knows what's going on in that room. And to me, if they were playing guilty, they didn't do a very good job of it last night.
Yeah, 8-1 would suggest they didn't. Yeah.
Now, there's kind of the legendary story from the book that you put out, but how close were you to not getting to a morning skate or a practice in your years of tomfoolery? So
I can tell this story now that I'm retired and can't get in any trouble from anybody, I hope. But we played in LA. We had that LA Anaheim trip. I wasn't with Calgary at the time, so you can deduce the other 5 teams that I played for other than Calgary. But we had a late night, and we had to practice in Anaheim at 10 a.m. I think, no, I'm lying. It was in LA, and we played that night. And I rarely go out the night before, but I ended up in the Hollywood Hills with some people and a couple of actors and stuff. And all I remember is sitting at this guy's in the Hollywood Hills, sitting in a kitchen stall. So it was kind of, his kitchen had like a booth in it, almost like
pantry
at a diner. Okay. And I was drinking Crown Royal out of the bottle.
Yep.
And it was 5:45 a.m. And our practice was at 10 a.m. morning skate. We had the early one because I think the home team was practicing at their practice rink. So I was taking a sip of Crown Royal, and the guy I was with goes, "We should go. We have practice in 4 hours or whatever." And I was like, we're fine. And the guy's house, it was Suey from, that Swingers show, Swingers. It was his house. And
it was Vince Vaughn and Michael Favre or whatever.
Yeah, whatever. The guy, we ended up at his house after a late night, and I didn't know him, but we knew the actor Michael Vartan, who was in Never Been Kissed, and he was a huge hockey fan. And so we were all there, and I remember drinking Crown Royal, and my buddy who was on the team goes, "We better get going." And I said, "Yeah, you go. I'll just make it to practice." So he left, and then I somehow made it to practice, and I made it through practice. But I remember that afternoon, you wake up, and I could still taste whiskey. Like I had whiskey on my breath. Like it was like not good. And luckily I wasn't starting, but unfortunately 10 minutes into the game, I made an appearance. And that was not good. That was not good, because no amount of praying or anything can go please get this out of my system so I can see straight. But somehow,
did Turek get hurt, or
it wasn't in Calgary? It wasn't. I swear.
Just also get hurt. We won't know.
Yeah. It wasn't Calgary, but just taste I remember for the rest of my career was I will not drink the night before a game. And I think we were down 4-0. I allowed the first shot. The goalie I was backing up allowed 3 in the first 7 minutes. Coach is yelling, get in there. You're painting yourself invisible, going, just don't even look down in my direction. I get in there and I'm still kind of tasting it in that. I let in the first shot. And then somehow, I think it's just with all the goodwill that I built up in my life, we ended up coming back and tying that game 4-4. So it was in an era where their ties were still available. But
it was 4-4. That's enough. We can find out now.
Yeah.
Oh, he's looking it up.
I'm trying to cut to the chase.
Noodles game log.
Maybe it was 4-5-5 or something. I don't know. It was an ugly one.
That's easy enough. You came in relief and it was a tie.
I was playing for St. Louis.
The moral of the story is that you're a professional and you had to do what you had to do and you got the job done.
That's right.
I barely got the job done, and I swore to myself I would never do it again.
Doesn't matter about barely. If you're painting a fence, you paint the fence.
Yeah.
You got her done.
You either did the job or you didn't. It's binary, Noodles. You did
Somehow
the job.
we managed to get it done. I don't know how. So either way, it was you don't do those things when you're in Carolina or whatever. This happened at, it was
did Luongo have the stomach flu or
no, that wasn't. Remember Dan Sabrin? I was talking about that yesterday. Do you remember when Louis had the runs in the playoffs versus Anaheim?
Yeah.
All I remember, if you can go back, you look at Dave Nonus's face when Danny Sabrin skates out for overtime.
They were flamed, Danny Sabrin.
They pan the luxury box, and Dave Nonus has just soiled himself going, what is going on here? My rock star, the captain of my team, my rock star is Harry Dunn right now on the toilet. And Danny Sabrin's making saves. And I don't know what game that was, but that might have ended the series, I think. It was ugly. And Sabrin played for 8 or 9 minutes because there was no whistles. And Getzlaf and Perry, it was like a shooting gallery.
Don't ice it, don't go offside, changes on the fly. We got to keep this guy in net.
God bless Danny Sabrin, because I swear to God, he made a bunch of saves. And then out of the bathroom came Louis and out of the tunnel in Anaheim and skated down. But I'll never forget the look on Dave Nonus's face. I don't know who, I'm sure CBC did the game, but I can't remember who the broadcaster was. Would you look at Dave Nonus, the surprise, he's calling down going, what's going on here? Because it was ugly, but I was glad they didn't score on Sabrin. That would have been tough.
Is that when they used the forklift to basically bash the door open, or am I thinking of somebody else?
No, that might have been somebody. I just
you might be the guy. You might be the guy to do it. I've always wanted somebody to write a book about shit stories in professional sports. I had to go here, or something happened. He shit himself in the huddle, or had it running down. Everybody loves a good shit story, Noodles.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have that many. I think that the one thing I do remember was Louis had a tough lunch or whatever. That's all it was, and he had admitted it afterwards. Was said that couldn't keep it together. I mean, that's tough. I don't know. We've all had that.
He famously tweeted just the toilet icon.
That's right.
On his Twitter, and I don't know if Strombone one at the time was his handle, whether he was outed as Luongo yet or not. But he was a riot. I honestly think, Noodles, he became popular because he was always honest, but I think he was sort of misunderstood. And then he got on Twitter and people were like, oh, he's funny. He's doing a lot of stuff in jest. We never got it. Now it all makes sense.
When I played with him in 06, I would tell people he's one of the funniest guys I've ever met.
Yeah.
And now Kipper is too. If you know Mika, Mika is very dry and sarcastic, right? So the funny thing is I would tell people all the time, Luongo's hilarious. And they're like, no, he was very cut and dry, very serious, very quiet, very introverted until you got to know him. And then the Twitter thing happened.
Yeah.
And he only had, at the time, early on, about 50 followers. And the Strombone one, I remember that was his screen name on his email or something for his fantasy football. So I saw it come across his brother Leo started following me, and then I saw who Leo was following, and I saw Strombone one. So I pressed on it, and I was his 51st follower.
Yeah.
And immediately I got a text from him going, how did you find me? And I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, I know your screen name. And he goes, don't tell anybody that's me. And I said, no worries. And then I don't know if you remember, Kevin Bieksa outed him on Twitter.
Classic.
And said, that's Roberto Luongo. And it blew up immediately. And you're right. I think by the end of Roberto's career, he was more popular and more beloved because of his Twitter, because of how he embraced you remember he allowed 8 goals in Detroit the one night, and he called himself Luongo, and the O was like a goal light.
The G was an 8. Yeah, the G was an 8. That's what it was.
Yeah, like it was an 8, right? Like it was funny stuff like that where you would get that from him behind the scenes, but now he was putting it on Twitter.
Yeah.
And, to this day, he's so funny. Like we don't talk all the time, but our interactions are quite funny. And, I was proud. I was happy for him. They won a cup and got to see him. And I was bugging him. I'm like, I didn't get the invite to the cup party. Usually my buddies will invite me to the cup party. And I got feathers from Greg Campbell, who's a good friend of mine, who's their AGM. And I got feathers from Louis, which I would have assumed, being former teammates of these guys playing for Florida, I would have been invited to the cup party. And I didn't get invited. It was maybe it's more an indictment on me.
Well, you're rubbing people the wrong way, Noodles.
I'm getting crustier the older I get. That's what it is.
Is that what it is? Because that was always a big thing. You and Luongo, guys, you were like a
Batman and Robin?
buddy cop.
We were like Hall and Oates. Yes,
right.
we were. Like we were. I guess I would be John Oates. He'd be Daryl Hall. Because John Oates is the kind of stubby guy. I would have drawn a mustache.
That's right.
Play the guitar. Daryl Hall could sing.
Or if it was Wham, he would be,
he's George Michael, and I don't even know the name.
You're the other guy.
Jeez.
Yeah. What's the name of the other guy?
And his brother. What's his name?
Yeah, the other.
Andy something or whatever.
What is the name of the other guy in Wham?
Nobody knows the other guy in Wham ever.
Don't Google it. You got to keep it that way.
What a great music bingo trivia.
I could probably find it if I sit here and focus, because he did have one song that came out. He tried the solo thing. It's like,
he didn't. The Wham guy tried to solo.
Don't test him on this. He's hosted 90s radio in small markets forever. This is his wheelhouse.
Hey, listen. Wake me up before you go. Those just aren't sitting around, you can't just
listen. The guy's living off of residual checks, no problem. But I'm saying he never, nobody would know his name outside of his inner circle.
Anyone texting in that knows it?
Jack, Andrew Ridgely? That's what it is.
Yeah, never heard that name before in my life.
Oh, for sure they
Googled it.
I may not have got it.
Or they're the biggest Wham fans of all time, but most likely they Google. Yeah.
But
Noodles,
if you're the biggest Wham fan, you still don't know his name. You're just like that other guy.
Yeah. Tough news coming out of Edmonton this morning. Oilers say it's going to be 2 to 3 weeks for McDavid. They didn't handle the first game very well, as they got
shellacked,
woodshedded, as you said, by the Blue Jackets. Now they have Nashville and Calgary before they return home. But it's not been a great start for them to begin with. They're about 500. But they have not had to have life without McDavid for a long time or very often at all. What do you see there? Does Draisaitl step up? Is it deer in the headlights? How do you expect the Oilers to respond?
To be honest, maybe I'm wrong. I think this is good for them, because if you look at their games, and I've watched every one of their games, their top players have played terrible, including Connor McDavid. And I'm saying relative terms. Connor had the 2 goals, and there's been nights where he's had some flashes. But that team, right from the drop of the puck this year, has looked disinterested. They look like they showed up and expected, hey, we're going back to the final because we made it there last year. I don't know if it's entitlement, if there's something there, but to a man, and I'm saying they're top players. Arvidsson's been their best player. He's been noticeable every night, and he's hard to play against. He's tenacious. Draisaitl's had pockets. Zach Hyman's had 28 shots on goal.
Zero.
He's all around it, but last year those shots, 5-hole and stuff, were going in. So far he's snake bitten. RNH is still stuck in second gear. Darnell Nurse is stuck in second gear. He's been terrible. Ekholm and Bouchard as a pairing have not been good. And I would say Ekholm. It's easy to go look at Bouchard because Bouchard's a casual player. So when he's casual and plays bad, it's even worse because you're like, this guy's not trying or he doesn't care. Ekholm is the guy who kind of stabilizes things. He's not at the top of his game. And then the goalie's not making saves. So how many, like literally, I've talked about the whole spine of their team. You're not going, geez, Derek Ryan's a problem or Corey Perry. They're actually not. They've actually played decent and they have shown some stuff that they've had some jam. It's the top of their roster and their best players who've not played well. So now, last year at the start of the season, I remember the outdoor game against Edmonton, against Calgary. You know, Edmonton showed up and won that game, but they never still dug out it after a while after that. Mm-hmm. And McDavid was hurt through that whole process. So he might as well not been playing. To me, I think this team has to find a better identity away from Connor McDavid. And what I mean by that is they can't be as loosey-goosey defensively. If you're going to try and win 3-2 and see if you can do it. Their power play has been abysmal. And that's something that is shocking for me with the amount of talent on it. And you take McDavid off it, they still have talent. They're just going to have to simplify. And that means they don't have to just run and gun and wheel it and go, hey, let's find the open option and take it. You might have to go, hey, one pass shot, jam away for a rebound, play some straight line hockey. But it's an opportunity for some guys to kind of right the ship. And that starts in goal. And it starts with their three best defensemen. And it starts with the top four players of the roster outside of McDavid having some consistency to the game. So it's a lazy narrative to go, oh, no, McDavid, they got no chance. They're a good team without McDavid, but they got to start playing like it because they haven't.
Yeah. Interestingly, I thought in Philly, that was their first win of the year. It was a couple fights. It was Perry and Stetcher that fought, and that got them. Like, they just don't seem invested.
They're not.
And it's one of the things that happens when you have so many guys over 30. There's no young guys that are just horny and excited to be there. Like, there's a lot of guys that are saying, we're not going to be measured by what happens in this regular season. Like, it's how do I get worked up for 82 dress rehearsals when we're only going to be measured by our playoffs?
Well, right. You're right.
Yeah.
And veteran teams have that type of like, hey, we're not going to get too high, not going to get too low. The problem that I see, and we're seeing it throughout the league, and I know we're 10 games in, is there's going to be 2 or 3 bottom feeders. Teams will end up at the bottom, but I see everyone pushing up. The teams that, like, Chicago's better on paper this year. They're going to get more points than they did last year just by playing the games. San Jose, yes, San Jose's got 2 in a row. They probably should have had better results earlier in the season, but San Jose, I think, is going to be a bottom feeder. Everybody else has gotten better or is trying to get better. So what you're doing is you're going to shrink that middle into who has a better season, who surprises, because Seattle looks decent now, Utah looks good, like, and Vancouver will get it together, like, Calgary's right there. Hey, Calgary's in a retool situation. Well, they got some young guys that are pushing. They got a goalie that looks really good and some veteran guys that have started really nicely, and Huberdeau and Kadri and guys like that. So all of a sudden, the teams that we thought were going to be long gone, what if they hang around and start taking points off of you? Because that's what I'm seeing. The Atlantic Division, take a look at that alone. Mm-hmm. Like Montreal got rinsed last night. They might have a drop-off. Everybody else in that division is trying to make the playoffs legitimately and has a chance. Buffalo's come back on now recently. So to me, Edmonton, if you're 500 or you get to above 500 or just hang around there, that's fine as a veteran team. But now you got to do it without 97 for 2 to 3 weeks. So that's easier said than done. And, let's see you prove it. Yes, you got Draisaitl, who at times arguably could be the second best player on the planet when he's really invested in digging in and playing with some piss and vinegar. I think you're right. The team is older, they're veteran, but they know how to play. So maybe it's time for them to play. But I look at the standings. You can't really mess around and go, hey, you know what, we'll get it together because last year we won 16 in a row, so we can do that again this year. To me, that's a loser's narrative. I don't like that.
And I'm not sure if you would have something similar, but Rhett has told the story in Buffalo when playoffs, Hasek, not there, not playing. And just the holy crap that goes through the dressing room. It's one thing for a team to lose their best player, but to lose one of the best players in the world, such a difference maker. And you guys handled it okay, but not to rehash the story again, but what's the
one-off? And it was different too, because it was playoffs and we didn't suspect to miss him for long. And we were playing well going into it. Do you know what, as a team? I don't think
is this when he choked the reporter out?
Afterwards, when they questioned what he was doing. We went to the Rink Noodles in Toronto for morning skate game 1 semifinals. And I'm like, where's the goalie?
The reason we're here, that guy?
The only guy, like, if you look at the 99 Buffalo Sabres lineup, there's one player and it's Hasek.
Yeah.
And Jim Pizzatelli is like, he went back to Buffalo.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
God.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you know what? The only thing I can think of in recent memory, and taking a slight shot at myself, is when Kipper and Roman were hurt that year in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you look at it, our team, and then I broke my sternum, but I was still playing. But the guys knew, and the guys know. When the guys know it's not Mika back there, like, people, you play differently, you react differently, and the guys knew I was battling. So I felt it. There was no words spoken, certainly not in front of me. Maybe at the back of a plane, or there might have been conversations outside of me not being around. It's like, guys, like, we can't lose a lot of ground here with Mika out for 6 weeks. So to a man, I felt the team played different. We gave up less chances. Guys blocked shots. There was an attention to detail that I noticed, and it helped my game so that I could actually play and play every night where I wasn't used to that. And to me, it almost kind of banded us together, going, hey, you can't give up 3 breakaways and expect me to stop them. You could with Mika. And so we played differently. So on a personal level, I've noticed it a few times in my career when the guy I was backing up had injuries. I noticed it in St. Louis when Fierzy got hurt. I had to go in for a 10-game stretch, and the team just played differently. It wasn't I didn't take it as a slight. It's just on my best day.
It's a positive in regards to your personality, and that's part of it. If you were a dick, trust me, we weren't going to do it.
Well, but the thing is too, is the team realizes where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are. So it's for Edmonton, McDavid's strength is driving play. It's scaring the opponent in certain situations. On the power play, it's freewheeling. So Nashville's going to go at them tomorrow. You got to find a different way. You got to, Draisaitl is a driver. I think RNH can be a driver, but he hasn't been driving it. Like, he's been more of a passenger. And to me, with guys like that, when you've got to find a way to push through. So same thing. I've seen these scenarios throughout the history of time. Sometimes it galvanizes a group or maybe gets you out of a funk.
Honestly, I think the best comp is when we've seen Crosby miss large swaths, and it's always like, oh my gosh, look at Evgeny Malkin's points per game when Crosby's gone. Like, how is he better without him? But it's a challenge to Leon Draisaitl. And honestly, the game against Nashville, I think it'll be a great watch, because those are two very desperate teams. The Oilers are trying to prove it's more than just McDavid, and an 0-5 start for Nashville. They're not out of that hole yet. That should be fun.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good game. But there's lots of. It's funny. There's lots of games you circle even early on, and you're going, geez, I like watching that. I was in Utah the other day. I like that team. I think that team's really fast.
See them tonight here. Yeah.
I think that'll be a good game tonight. Like, Calgary. You don't want to continue. You get such a nice start. You don't want to take the shine off of it. So you got to really push hard. And with Utah, I don't know. I heard you guys before I came on. Like, it's like on the Washington football team, the Utah Hockey Club. I like Utah's jerseys. I do.
Color scheme's nice.
I like the color scheme. I just like that they're a hockey club. Is the Yeti going to change? Is that going to move the needle? The Utah Yeti?
I'm going to get that too. They get it.
He's jacked about these.
I'm so mad at the Washington Commanders because I like the Washington Football Club because I liked. It was almost like a giant middle finger. It's like, okay, you don't like what we've been called for our whole existence, so we're just going to be called nothing, and we're going to be called the football team. And to me, that's. And they were good. I liked their jerseys. I liked everything. The Commanders, I hate that name. I'm sorry. I hate that name. And to me, what is going to happen, it's going to be the Utah Yeti, and I would prefer the Utah Hockey Club.
Final one for me in Utah tonight. Michael Backlund will play game number 1,000 of his career. Did you overlap at all, or had you been in the minors when you were around? I feel like you
Michael was around when I was. Michael was around when I was
You're coaching.
Yeah, with Daryl in my first year out and stuff. Drafted. The coolest thing that I've seen is watching him become an amazing leader, a husband, a father, all of these things, like where I remember this kid, this 18-year-old, 19-year-old kid. And now when I see him, it's like, okay, now I'm old because that's an old NHL player. And he's like a class guy. And just like Michael Backlund does it right. And there was a time early in his career, I wasn't sure if if the light was going to go on and he was going to achieve what we all have seen the last, whatever it is, 13 years, because he's been that amazing. And the best part about it is he's a better human. Like, he's an unbelievable guy. Like, I always liked him and stuff, but just hearing stories and how he conducts himself, it probably doesn't hurt playing with Jerome McGinley and Mark Giordano and leaders in that room, Rhett and guys like that. Like, to me, that have helped, shape their fabric. And, they've carried on that legacy. And I think Michael's done a really good job carrying on a tough legacy, big shoes to fill when it comes to Gio and Iggy. Those are quality humans. And Michael's really carried that on.
What's up for the week? We see you're at home. So
home today. I fly to New York late tomorrow night because I've got the Rangers Friday.
All right.
I want you to make up for Vegas. You go to New York, you have yourself a time.
Please do.
I shouldn't I?
I think you should.
You owe it to yourself. You owe it to us. You owe it to everybody.
There's this little spot in New York City in the Village called Johnny's Bar. If you Google it, it's in the Village. It's just a small, tiny little place called Johnny's Bar. They've got a great jukebox. They've got specialty drinks. And the last time I was in there, I sat with Lenny Kravitz. He was just sitting there by himself, just hanging out.
And then you
People
came
didn't
and
know
sat
who he
down.
was. I'm like, that's Lenny Kravitz.
Now
You
you're homeless.
creeped him. Why would you creep Lenny?
I didn't creep
Lenny
him.
if he wants to go hang out and play the jukebox by himself, he doesn't need some skid goalie.
He was happy to talk to me because I didn't fanboy him.
So wasted. You thought Lenny Kravitz wanted to talk to you. That shame on you.
I didn't fanboy him.
You
And the
did.
thing is, he was in the way to the jukebox, and that's where I wanted to take over. I plugged a bunch of money in.
Are you going to go my way?
So now
I was
you
gonna
bumped
say,
him.
are you gonna go my
So
way?
now you bumped him out of there. The guy wants to.
I did not put any Lenny Kravitz on. I put that song, Josie's on a vacation. What's that?
The outfield.
Outfield.
The Outfield. I put that song on. He was loving it.
Hey, Lenny, do you think rock and roll is dead?
And I didn't sit and bother him. Said hello. We just happened to be sitting in the same vicinity. And I was a creep there by myself too. So there you go.
You know what? That's a good.
Lenny was sitting there going, I think that's it.
Is that Mika's
it.
backup?
Yeah, didn't that guy play for the Rangers for 5 games?
Was it him, Mike?
Appreciate you, Noodles. Have a great week.
Have a good one. Chat later.
Jamie McLennan, the one and only.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out more of our content right here on the Flames Nation YouTube page. We had a bunch of great long form interviews. You can check out some videos we've done as well outside of the studio. And of course, if you want more writing or merchandise stuff, flamesnation.ca or nationgear.ca. Appreciate you watching.